Greetings and welcome back once again. I pray everybody's doing well. This is Amuna. Look, I said I was going to stop, but the other dialogue keeps leaking out these videos, and now the math ain't mathing, y'all. I can't turn it off. Listen, a new video just came out, and I'm listening. He has cut up this Billy Garland interview like 100 ways, right? And so it seems that one conversation contradicts the other. And this recent release about this is the first time I actually heard Billy Garland stuttering, where I think the way that this conversation is coming out, there's some ambiguity, there's some cloudiness around how and why he and Afeni Shakur got together, right? And so I'm going to go back a few videos because I mentioned it before about when asked about Asada Shakur, and his response was very different than when asked about Afeni. And that leads me to believe my little soul detector is telling me there's more to the story that he's not fully disclosing in this area. So let's listen to the way he responds to the Asada Shakur situation and the things that he's gonna say, and then him pulling himself back from saying it. So this is for just for fair use in review. I'm not trying to, but I kind of want to put it on the screen so that we can break it down together, because the math ain't nothing. Something is not something in. All right. So here we go. Let me know if you can hear it and if everything is well. And again, sometimes when there's some confusion around a situation, again, when something happens in time, in history, we can misremember as people. If you don't want a certain position to be shown, you can kind of cloud it a little bit intentionally. But listen and watch how he reacts and what he says, and then we're going to come back and talk about it. So this is not the one that dropped today, but this one is important for context.
She was fine. She was very beautiful young lady.
Wait. This is talking about Asada Shakur. So here we go.
Yeah. Wanted to.
Did you know Asada Shakur?
Yeah. Wanted to.
Okay. So he says, did you know Asada Shakur? And right away he goes, yeah, I wanted to. And then he said, let me shut my mouth. Okay. And then he goes on. So I remember Billy is born in 1949. He would have been about 20 years old in 1969. According to another report, he met Afeni in 1969 at some planning meeting, right? Tupac is conceiving would have to be September of 1970. When he meets her, she would have had to have been in a relationship. I have to double check on when the whole crew goes to jail, but he would have known who she was because she's at the forefront of the party in Harlem. According to him, he was offended that they called him a driver in the Dear Mama movie, and he says he was a captain in Jersey. Okay, this is important to know. Let's continue. So let me pull it back so you can see it. Hold on.
Did you know Asada Shakur?
Yeah. Wanted to.
See, that's that teenager or the young adult thing I was talking about. That excitement when you bring up somebody who you used to have a crush on, but you didn't fully go through. It's kind of like he went into that reminiscent mode real quick. Like, yeah, all of the cool, I don't want to be a such and such. All of that went out the window when asked about Asada Shakur. But let's continue. You got to watch all of that. Then he says he's going to hold his tongue.
She was fine. She was very beautiful young lady.
Look at how his whole face lit up. The way he's talking about her, the way he's remembering her, the way he's reflecting on her. This is a good look for him in his mind.
Let's say that in the Panther party.
So basically, what you was about to say was you wanted to.
He even goes as far as to bite his hand. So the interviewer is like, oh, come on, like go a little further, what you was trying to say. And he first covered his mouth like he didn't want to say. And now the interviewer is like tempting him to say something, but he still does some type of bites his hand so that he doesn't say what he wants to say. Listen up. Oopsie.
She was beautiful, brother. She was absolutely stunning. Politically, you just said that.
And then he's trying to catch it real quick, like, uh-oh, this is about to look kind of crazy. So let me pull it back into the movement, right?
And that's where my mind jumped. And I still say that when I think of her.
Right.
I don't want to diminish her political content.
Absolutely.
I'm sorry.
Absolutely. No, I mean, she was a beautiful woman. So
yeah, and I know the Minister of Information came in. I think we about to do something, but somehow he got involved.
Did you hear that? Important. So when you're dealing with groups, when you're dealing with chapters, when you're dealing with organizations, I learned this, that the men in the organization oftentimes have designs on the women that come into the organization. So when the woman comes in and she thinks, I'm going to be, here for the struggle, the men are plotting and scheming on the women. Did you hear what he just said? I'm going to back it up. Correct. What's going on, India? He didn't want to expose his lust. But if we back it up, you heard what he said. The Minister of Information came in and heard we were about to do something. So if he, as someone who's not from that chapter, from another chapter, comes into where they are, right? I have to double check what chapter she was from. And he has designs on her. According to what he just said, the Minister of Information, when he reflects on Afeni, he doesn't reflect in that way. Right? He doesn't reflect in that way. And it could be because they end up having history, whatever the case may be. But when he's reflecting on Asada, you can see that it's unfulfilled. Like, oh yeah, he didn't get to do what he wanted to do. But let me pull it back.
Information came in. I think.
Who came in?
So
yeah, and I know the Minister of Information came in. I think we about to do something, but somehow he got involved.
So he's saying that the Minister of Information, that beyond the lust, which he's about to tell us now, however you was feeling in your urges, he also said it in the Dear Mama documentary. Clearly, that wasn't 100% because why and how would the Minister of Information have the ability to step in and interrupt your free love, right? And so let me continue. So how he goes on to describe it and to justify his actions is this.
There wasn't no norm. There wasn't no neighborhood. You go with her that night and you can't go with nobody else the next night. We would face life and death.
Okay.
So whoever you want to sleep with that night, you slept with. And often it wasn't an orgy, don't get me wrong, but it was mutual.
Mutual.
He's saying it's mutual, but there's a little bit of conflicting information because according to some of what we read in the articles, even the two wives of Lumumba, you know what I'm saying? If someone was with someone, I guess he means if they weren't with people. But in this case, he got warded off as someone who's younger in the group that now you can't come for this one. So I don't know. We're gonna need another weigh-in on this, but let's continue.
Absolutely.
Just relieving sexual desires.
Absolutely.
And he said the same thing about Afeni, just relieving sexual desires. So the way he made the relationship seem in the documentary, he said it was no flowers and no music. It was just relieving sexual desires. So I'm not gonna jump ahead. Let's continue.
And I don't love you. We ain't going to movies. We ain't going out to dinner.
Right.
I don't love you. We're not going to the movies and we're not going out to dinner. This is important because if someone has this, and remember, he has a mother wound. Okay. So, and it's unhealed clearly. But if you have this disposition, if you have this attitude, and a woman eventually say she does catch feelings for you, and you still maintain this attitude throughout, it may cause things to go sour. Let's continue to listen.
Just relieving sexual desires.
Wow.
And it was a beautiful thing.
Wow.
It was the purest because there was no ambiguity. There was no lies. There was just true shit.
And nobody had to lie to each other about anything. It was just what it was.
It's a very natural thing.
Right.
She was fine. I think her grandeur became bigger.
Okay, so he went back to the whole she's fine. He really wanted her, right? And then he went to say, you know what? It's nothing. For those who just joined us, a new video just dropped. Shout out to the Art of Dialogue. And watching all the little videos and having time to think about it, you're like, wait a minute. Some of this storyline that added up. So this was his disposition, right? So in another video before today, he talks about his relationship with Afeni and why it possibly went sour. So let's listen to that real quick.
The DNA test came back 99.999 positive that he is the father. But you knew that. You knew that for years. You knew that from inception. You knew that in the Black Panther Party when you brought him, when we broke up and you saw I got married to Carol and you wanted maybe a little more time, a little more from me, and I didn't have it.
Wait a minute. Didn't you just tell me that it was beautiful because it was mutual, that this people were just getting rid of their urges and their desires and no one had any expectations of anybody? But now in retrospect, that was on one end. But now in retrospect, you actually committed to someone else, got married when you had a child with so at this time, when you had a child with a whole different woman, who in this particular episode today, you're going to say you were in a relationship with for about 18 months. The math ain't math. And let me go back and pull this back a little bit. At this point, it's starting to feel like,
shit, I'm not even looking at that. All I thought I had to prove that I was his father. The DNA test came back 99.999 positive that he is the father. But you knew that.
Now you're saying it with a lot of gusto. You know what I'm saying? Now you're saying it with a lot of, like, this is retrospect, right? But what were you saying in the moment? You actually went and got married to another woman. You actually had a child with another woman who was the woman of another man, right? And you were just relieving desires. I know you were young, but what in the world? Let's continue.
You knew that for years. You knew that from inception. You knew that in the Black Panther Party when you brought him, when we broke up and you saw I got married to Carol.
How did you break up? Like, there's a lot of, like, let's not skip past that part. If you were together, according to what you're going to tell us in a minute, for 18 months and you had a little boy, when did you guys break up? And then why did you get married to someone else? You clearly wanted to get married because you did. It's not like you didn't. She wanted something. This is what I said in my other video. She wanted something. And he says right here that he wasn't able to give.
And you wanted maybe a little more time, a little more from me. And I didn't have it. And maybe that's what changed. Who knows?
Maybe. No, we're not going maybe. You were there, brother. You the only one left who was there. You're going to need to come a little. You were there. What you mean maybe? You knew what the conversation was. Because later on, she goes and gets married. If you say that he was still coming around for three years, and she marries the other guy, both of y'all wanted to get married because you ended up getting married. You know what I mean? You ended up getting married. So it wasn't that you didn't want to get married. You didn't want to get married to her. So we just heard that you wanted a shada, and the Minister of Information stepped in. But now when the possibility of when you get with her, all of the big men, the ranking men, they're behind bars, right? So is that when you were able to be emboldened to free love it? I don't know. We got questions. Well, you know what I mean? Just so the story can make sense. Let's continue. And then we're going to go to the one from today.
She left. When they broke her out, when she became a Cuban.
Oh, no, wrong one. Here we go. Sorry.
Why people do what they do. I just know in all my years, it still hurts. You know what I'm saying?
And that's what I noticed. In all of the videos, he has this reoccurring, it hurts his heart. It hurts his heart. And at first I'm like, oh, it's hurting his heart. Then I'm like, wait a minute. You're using that saying way too many times. Like, and then when it comes on to really shining light on what really happened, it's like skipping over that part, right? So according to you, you guys are in some type of relationship, and then you're offended that they called you a driver, but being in Jersey, the light wasn't really on Jersey at the time. The light was on Harlem and the Harlem 21. So is this the time when you were the shoulder to cry on? And if so, wouldn't she have been? That's why the reports are like, when Lumumba find out that he wasn't the father, you know what I mean? Wouldn't this have been controversial? Like, what happened in the organization around you laying with the leaders of that chapter's second wife? That had to be a scandal. Come on, man. I know how the camp politics go. That had to have been a scandal, because it would have been known that unless they had already broken up, it would have been known that this is such and such his wife. So how do you not only lay with her, right? That's why I asked the question. I did ask the question over there on the channel, is that was this relationship known or was it something that was done in secret? Because the people would have given that information back. Like, she's supposed to be out here rallying and raising money, and she's laying up with somebody from the Jersey camp. Oh, that had to have been a scandal, unless nobody knew. Right? I don't know. It seems like we need to a deep dive in this area since y'all got us all in the business already. Okay, so this is the one that came out today. After all of that talking, that made me press go live. Okay, because this one I was like, what? This one, brother, I was hearing you out till we got to this point. Let's listen.
How long was the relationship between you and Afeni? And do you remember when and where Tupac was conceived?
Keep a look at the face. When somebody's asking you a question, your eyebrows go up or clear up. You don't know. When he asked him about Asada, there was no hesitation. He went in, like he had memory recall. But look at his face when he's asking him the details about when and where, when and where somebody was created. Look at his face. He's listening intently, but look how high his eyebrows are.
Afeni, and do you remember when and where Tupac was conceived?
No, probably
no. Like quickly, no. Like you remember when you first saw old girl, but you don't remember when and where the son that you are now out here telling when he was conceived. So it's not something that you noted.
The Bronx, so we did that. That's what we did to relieve the tension. I mean, it was serious shit. We might get killed tonight. They was bringing in Panther officers and.
So relieve the tension. That's the way for somebody to feel. Like, how were you conceived in the effort to relieve the tension? Like that doesn't feel warm and fuzzy. You feel me? But let's continue.
On the regular, you slept with a gun by your side, just in case. We always believed in self-defense. You come in and shoot at me, we shoot back. That's all. It was simple. It was just simple like that. So we had a relationship. Wasn't always.
I've never seen him stutter in all of these videos. There's like 12 of them. This is the first time I'm seeing him like we had a relationship. Yeah, India, like he was drinking a cup of coffee or something, like taking a jog. Like, oh, I'm just relieving some tension. Like, I don't know. So let's continue here. Let me go back to the stutters. The stutter caught my attention.
We had a relationship. Wasn't always.
That stutter. No other time have I heard that stutter like that.
American boys and girls, but we had respect for one another.
How did it become a relationship when before you told us that everybody knew what it was? You know what I'm saying? You were just relieving tension and you could go with one person this night and another person that night and nobody had feelings because it wasn't official. It was free love. So how you get into a relationship? When did the relationship come along? There was no music. There was no romance. There was nothing. And now you in how did you end up in a whole relationship? This is the confusing part. We confused.
And I would say probably in the Bronx.
So in the Bronx?
Yeah.
He trying to remember that hard. Like, how many places were you, brother? Like, did you take her back to Jersey? Like, how many other places could it have been? You know what I mean? And in another place, it was just a short interaction. And then in her book, she calls him the sperm donor. Like, I think this confusion around this relationship is what is making everything more convoluted. Hold on one second. Yeah, so let me continue here. This one's not going to be long.
Yeah. So how long would you say the relationship lasted?
Maybe about 18 months.
18 months? That's a long, we ain't really into nothing. That was the original situationship. Like, that was the original entanglement. You feel me? 18 months. People ain't keeping jobs for 18 months. Now, did you get with her? Like, he should have asked him, when did the relationship start? That's what he should have asked. He should have asked, when did this relationship start? Because that would give the timeline as to how all of this stuff really unfolded. Because if they thought it was Lumumba's child, then it had to be when old boy was in jail. And that means it had to be when they bonded her out. And then now other people are coming around to help get done what needs to get done. Because, you know what I mean? It had to be after the fact.
18 months.
Yeah, until the end, until that COINTEL kind of destroyed the party, because that's what they, they would just do stuff.
But before you told us that it was because you got married and then you couldn't give her what it is that she wanted. And then now you're telling us it was COINTELPRO. But we also know that you left the party. So now this is getting all like, you know what I mean?
That was a pretty extensive relationship. I mean,
that's what I'm saying, brother. I'm glad you said that. And you should have also asked him when it started too. Because the way his eyes go up means that there's something in this space that not really saw out properly. You know what I mean?
For what you guys were going through at that particular time. 18 months. I mean,
well, we weren't married. It was always
why you keep saying that? We weren't married. We weren't married. She was a second wife to somebody like 2 seconds ago. And now you're like, okay, I'm downplaying the relationship. It was just urges and desires. And we weren't married and it wasn't romance. So imagine he has a mother wound, but she has a father wound. So imagine, you got the weight of everything on your shoulders and your comrades is in jail, depending on you to raise money to get them out. And then you link with somebody who's just this nonchalant, just this indifferent. And you need more than that. I don't know. Let's continue.
My man, my woman, we had respect for one another. I heard somebody say that I was a good driver. I think
my man, my woman, like how did, since you were still in the party, how did the rest of the people look at you for being with, I have to keep saying this because it's party politics, okay? If the minister stepped in and was like, nah, you can't hide at the shorty, you feel me? Asada is off limits. Wouldn't it have stand to reason that so was Afeni? And then how did the other people look at you while you are doing this? Like it's giving, you know why I think there's something here? Because it's giving Tupac and Biggie. It's giving Faith Evans going to Las Vegas. That's what it's giving. And his son actually comes and does something. I told you about these dots. His son actually kind of repeats a similar behavior in going for the wife of an ex-comrade. So, and this is why I think there is some sauciness in this area, because his son does it. Why would his son? He's repeating something that happened before. Again, this is all theory. I'm not even alleged. This is me theorizing. For those who are out there, I'm just looking at what is being shared publicly and thinking.
Said that in the movie. Yeah, I was a good driver. That's why we put him on the field. Motherfucker, I was the captain of the Black Panther Party in Jersey.
So what was you doing? See, anytime he doesn't get the full accolades he feels he should get, he gets in his feelings. So now Jamal is an MF who needs to understand that he was the captain in Jersey. So, but if he was the captain in Jersey, how were you in the Bronx all of this time, meeting and greeting and releasing desires? What was you doing all the way over here if you was the captain all the way over there?
And Afeni was having love. We made love. And at night, when we left
how did we get, this is confusing, no man. How did we get to making love? How did we get to making love? Shout out to those who just joined us. I am trying to be respectful because this is history. This is what happened. This is people. They were young. You understand? But now it's coming to the public and the math ain't matching. It's not matching up all the way. Now he went from it was just urges and desires to from jogging to making love. How did we get here? He must have think to himself, I said, yo, this thing is so bad, this thing's so bad. Let me spruce it up a little. Because even the interview was like, yo, 18 months, that's considerable. So now he's looking like, 18 months. I can't just say I was meeting desires. I gotta say, now the stuttering came in. I'm gonna pull it from the top, but the stuttering and the raised eyebrows let me know that my eyebrows should also be raised on this here recounting of the relationship. Asada got more love. She got the biting of the fist. She got the reminiscent smile. Asada got love. Afeni got, you was my man and I was your woman. I was your boo thing. Like, what?
Why we put him on the Afeni? Motherfucker, I was the captain of the Black Panther Party in Jersey. Me and Afeni was having love. We made love. And at night, when we left the Bronx, I would drop her ass off at the courthouse. Then I would go.
Why did he have to say drop her off at the courthouse? Were you driving her or not? Because according to what the guy said, his responsibility. Oh, so is it possible they put him on detail and his responsibility because he had some kind of rank in Jersey that his responsibility now was to guard her and make sure that she gets to the courthouse, and then he was guarding her and then she got to the courthouse? Is that what happened? Like, we could just, I mean, it's all water on the bridge right now. Like, Billy, you could tell us. We ain't gonna tell nobody but the whole internet. You could tell us, like, yo, this is how we got there. You know what I mean? Because right now you can't go from jogging to making love, like India said. Like, you just told us that you was, releasing desires, and now you over here, honey loving. I mean, it's not, the math is not mathing.
Having love. We made love. And at night, when we left the Bronx, I would drop her ass off at the courthouse. Then I would go across the bridge and go back home to Jersey City.
Wait a minute. At night, what?
Then I would go across the bridge and go back home. Having love. We made love. And at night,
that even sounded awkward. Having or making? Which one was it? And then if you just talked about the person that you loved, or you was making, why you gotta drop her ass off at the courthouse? Why I dropped the beautiful sister off at the courthouse? Like, it just sounds like a discard. Even with the hand, that you gotta look at body movements, facial expressions, right? The hand up, that's a discard right there. Which leads me to believe that this had something to do with power and access to power. I said it the other day, because this doesn't seem like, making love. I'm sorry, it just doesn't.
At the Bronx, I would drop her ass off at the courthouse. Then I would go across the bridge and go back home to Jersey City and deal with what I had to deal with. I resented that. It
sounds like they hired you to take her to the courthouse, like what the guy said. He did not say, oh, he was nobody. Yeah, it's like whatever. Like, he fanning them off. He fanning her off. He resented what the guy said, but you said you came across the bridge. You was making love or having love, one of the two, and then you took her to the courthouse or picked her up from the courthouse, and then you went back over the bridge. It kind of sounds like they tasked you with transporting her to where that she needed to be. That's what it sounds like.
It's there. You want to diminish me to build her up? That's what bothered me about the whole thing. Not for nothing.
See, and he's always bothered by the feelings of feeling diminished or somebody diminishing him. That little conversation, that interaction is not what, I don't know, maybe he would see it as it, but like, if that be the case, tell us more about what you did so that people could understand your contribution to the Black Panther Party. Because the way the story sounds, it sounds like you just joined, right? And that all of this is happening and you're thrown into the thick of things, and people have to move around, and it's no real as much structure as it used to be, right? And you're young. And why would the Minister of Information, I got a whole lot of questions, but anywho, let me wrap this up here.
I don't want to get off on that, but
Me either.
Mm-hmm. Brother Jamal Joseph said in the Dear Mama documentary that you were just a driver in the Panther Party. You were a very good driver, he said.
I heard that.
Could you please explain your actual position in the Black Panther Party?
Like I said, I was the captain in Jersey chapter of the Black Panther Party, the various chapters. Did a lot of different things. Some legal, some not.
What are the things like you worked on when they say what she did? And I'm not capping for her because I got questions. But when they say what other people did, they worked on, the food to the children. They worked on getting access to healthcare. They worked on like various different things. Like, what are the things? Like rent subsidies, petitioning for blah 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 to the blah blah blah. Like, if you was the captain in Jersey, like, what was y'all over there doing? But the one job that you reluctantly want to agree to, that you were transporting her. And this, I think, gave you access to her when the men that were there were no longer there because they were in jail, which would make you telling the story, you have to speak on it very carefully. KJ says his body language when talking about making love, quote unquote, resembles the imagery in Pac's first verse on Still I Rise. Oh, I gotta check it out. I don't almost to the T. Interesting. Is it in regard to him like being like dismissive in that way? Because that was interesting the way he just fanned her off. For those who just joined us, and I'm gonna put the links in the box. These are the 3 that I watched and that we went over, because Asada got way more fond memories than what you call it did. She had her behind got dropped off. He said he just dropped her behind off at the courthouse. Like here you go. I'm like, what? 18 months? That's a lot of and they weren't in the courthouse for 18 months. They the case got dismissed. The case got dismissed around what was that? April of 1971. Right? The case gets dismissed April of 1971. And she goes back to jail at 5 months pregnant. So let me get the math on this. Hold on, peoples. Because y'all know I like to do the math. When the guys didn't show up for court, let me get the exact date. When the guys didn't show up for court, they took her back in. So May 12th, 1971, they got acquitted, right? But she was back in jail for 5 months. Hold on. She was back in jail for 5 months. So that would have put her back there around January. I have to double check. That would have put her back there around January. So he has a small window of dropping her off, doing the do in Bronx and dropping her off and going over the bridge. He has a small window from I usually like to have my dates right in front of me. He has the small window from the September, because Tupac has to be conceived in September because he's born in January. So you count forward 3 months. That gives you around the conception date. We're doing the Maury Povich. We're doing the Jerry Springer. So we have June, July, August, September. That means he has to be conceived in September. Okay. So I don't know if you're messing around with her before that time, but September, October, November, December, January. So around January, late January, February, I have to double check when she goes back. So that's 4 months, bro. That's 4 months. And then she comes out 1 month before she gives birth. So that's 4 months before of this whole driving activity that you have access to her. You seed her up, and then she goes back to jail. Now, did y'all resume the relationship after she came out of jail? Question, right? Like, Amuna, you going in. If I'm going to take my sweet little time, I'm supposed to be laying my book out. By the way, I got a new book, cookbook coming out. I'm over here like, I'm listening to it while I'm doing the layout for the book. And I'm like, wait a minute. That's not what he said over there. So let's finish this up.
Yeah, I don't want to get into that, but I found that insult that you looked at my commitment to the struggle of my people as just a driver.
A driver is very important. Just ask all the Uber drivers that's transporting people all around the country. When you say just, this is what makes me start to continue to listen to him. And I told you, August, especially August men, it has been my experience that they like status and they like accolades. And if they feel like you're slighting them, not all, just my experience, and he's fitting the bill, then they feel indifferent. Because even when talking about Asada, he goes to, I don't want to diminish her. You aggrandize her beauty. Oh, she was so beautiful, but she wasn't doing that much in the party until after. So there might be a question of A, you came later on, B, there are other higher ranking officials, Afeni being one of them, right? C, the people's the big man them, they're in jail, right? And so now you have access to be a big man amongst them, right? Because even if you wanted this opportunity, you would have been like, yo, forget it. Let me tell you all the stuff I was doing in Jersey. Instead of saying, oh, they're trying to diminish me, you had an opportunity. He said, for the record, tell us what you did. And then you told us, yeah, I did some stuff and then some other stuff. Like what? If you really wanted us to know, you wanted to set the record straight, then you tell us what, I wrote the pamphlets, I edited the paper, what did you do? I organized a group of blah, blah, blah. Tell us what you did instead of saying that other people are diminishing from you, right? So I thought that was interesting. Let's continue.
Or Afeni's security or personal
driver. What an insult.
Right then, I can't forget that was the first episode or whatever it was. I said, wow, well, this is not going the way I thought it would go. Kind of broke my heart.
Stop saying that. Everything he keeps saying kind of broke his heart. If we do a count of how many times he said that, stop saying that. We're gonna need this. Come on now. I was with you. I was like, yeah, let's hear the other side of this story. But now the story seems like the story needs some more story.
How dare you? I know Jamal. He was a fucking kid when I was in the Panther party.
Wait a minute. Jamal was a kid. He was like 17. But bro, you were 20. You also were young. What in the world? You were 20.
A child. Matter of fact, his case got severed because he was a youthful offender. He wasn't old enough to be tried with the regular Panther 21. Dare you say that? A good driver? I was a good driver, but that ain't what...
See? Now you told on yourself, I was a good driver. So you were the driver. So where you vexed for? Where you upset for? You know somebody who got a different beef, but then you say a truism and then they hop on the truism. And then he comes and concedes at the end, a good driver. How dare he say I was a good driver? I was a good driver. I'm like, whoa, bro, make it make sense. Like, nah, girl, you knew what it was. We wasn't trying to get down like that. Then we were making love. No, you was not having love, sir. Because if that was the case, then why did you go marry somebody else? Like, and did you marry somebody else while she was in jail? Did you marry and then when she came back, it was like, yo, she came back to you like, yo, what's good, what it is. And you're like, nah, sis, I got married. Like, tell us that part. I know you probably still living at home and you're still married and you have your children. So you're thinking wisely of what you want to say. But the story is looking kind of, you know what I mean, incomplete. It's looking kind of incomplete. Let's finish this up.
Fuck, I did.
Excuse the French. Why are we getting so spirited, brother?
It just broke my heart. Anyway.
So that's what made me want to come on here and share this. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. I'm gonna put the link up for 2 seconds and then I'm a boogie. But yeah, the story now is not walking straight. This story is crooked. Okay. And there's some important details that are missing that would really lend a light on what really happened. Okay. And if you was trying to get with Ashada and the Minister of Information, like when was this? When you just came, like you was an upstart and then they were like, whoa, shorty. Again, in these type of spaces, the men, even if they don't outwardly express it, they call dibs on who they want to talk to. And especially if somebody may be brand new and just coming in or not even from there, and you're from another camp, they're not necessarily going to just be like, yeah, the prime sister over there, or the sister that's in this high rank, it's all free love. Because if it was, then the Minister of Information wouldn't have need to pull you by your collar and be like, nah, bro, that's a dub. Right? Why would he find out and be like, no? He would have been like, oh, yeah, come on in. KJ says, yep, dismissive. Pac alludes to the fact that his mother said no in the process. Oh, wow. That's interesting. Now y'all make me really gonna have to get this book. You know how many I'm on the hook for? I'm not gonna finish Color Purple. I already told him that because the slackness in Color Purple, I'm good. But I didn't finish Marvin Gaye, and I definitely have to finish that. And so, but this book, I think, I don't know what's in it, but he would have had to got that conversation from somewhere. Oh, only plan he had for Mama was to blink and abuse her. Interesting, but would he have been talking about the man who he thought? Because according to the conversation, he didn't know that this man was even potentially his father. So I wonder there's definitely some type of energy there. And you want to know why there's some energy there? Because again, the thing that starts to send him in the wrong direction as it relates to court cases is somebody accusing him of violating them, even though he himself said that he didn't. And he basically was in a situation that his father is describing, that it was free love and there were no feelings attached. Literally, that goes another point. Every time, that's why I talk out loud, because the points just start pointing. The situation that his father described, that it was beautiful. When you hear Tupac describing the situation in the of him getting up and leaving the room and not seeing anything wrong with letting other men have access, that's very interesting, because the father describes that a similar situation that's going on in the Panther Party, and clearly in this day and age he's seeing nothing wrong with it. So I really think, thank you, KJ, for your submissions, because I think that there's something to look at in this area. Like, oh boy, art of dialogue, like you need another conversation, because I think that there's something in this area that warrants reassessing, that he's not saying. You know what I mean? That he's not saying. Like, if I got the specific dates, that would take me some more time. But the exact timeline, all I could say loosely is that the fact that the guy in jail thought it, when they found out it wasn't his, leads me to believe that he slipped in under the radar. He slipped in under the radar. They sent her out. Imagine, all of the comrades are in jail. They vote. First of all, you decide, I'm going to defend myself. And they say, you know what? They don't agree, but they're going to get behind that. And now your job is to get out of jail. They're going to take the monies that they collect to bail you out. And now you got to come back and make sure that everybody else is good. And while on the outside, they have to secure you and make sure you get to and from the court date. And this is the person they hired to do so. And this is also the person who ends up being the father of your child while your poly husband is in jail. Nah, bro, I think there's scandal. I think there is scandal in this area. That's just me. KJ says, good question. I think everyone is deliberately telling the half truth from everybody's perspective. Yes, to protect the legacy of the party. I think so. I think so. I think so. Because Billy has not yet told us, besides the driving admission, what you did. Like, did you speak on the street corners? Did you recruit? Did you collect food to distribute? Did you work on, what did you do, brother? Did you paint the murals? Like, what did you do specifically? You told us you did some, I don't want you to incriminate yourself. This ain't Vlad TV. You told us you did some other stuff. We don't know about that. What did you do on the record? You're not, and all you're telling us is that you're offended because you don't feel you're getting your just due in the situation. When you also told us that you bowed out. You was like, the block was hot and I want out, and you left and you got married and you went and lived your life. We're not judging you for that part. The part that we are is like, nah, I ain't really, there's another part, I just couldn't pull it up. where he was just saying the same thing. There was no roses. There was no romance. It was just, you know what it was. For 18 months? For 18 months, you knew what it was? What was you writing her letters when she went back to jail? Was you putting money on her commissary when she went back to jail? You know what I mean? Because she was talking about how the conditions, she was writing letters while in jail to people outside to tell them how horrendous the conditions were for the women as well as for pregnant women. Like when you knew, because, oh, wait, let me go back. See, I don't want to get hype, but let me release the screen here. When he said that she made him take and he was offended, she made him take a DNA, right? And that he knew. Let me pull it back.
I didn't realize the significance of that. I'm not. You're looking on some other shit. You're looking at this, the legality and shit. I'm not even looking at that. All I thought I had to prove that I was his father. The DNA test came back 99.999 positive that he is the father. But you knew that. You knew that for years. You knew that.
Okay, so you knew that too. So the question is, if you knew that and she knew that, right? Did you look out for the child that you knew and she knew was yours while they were in prison? So remember, she's dealing with a lot of betrayal, not capping, but according to the storyline, there's a lot of things that's going on with her regarding males. And this particular male just seems very like it's whatever. So that's what makes me look like he wasn't coming for her because he loved her. He said it wasn't love. Right? So the whole story, once you guys, you no longer have access to him, something had to have transpired. Some conversation had to have taken place. Something had to have gone down. Yeah, wayward youth. Yeah, they were young and they were off the chain.
That from inception. You knew that in the Black Panther Party when you brought him, when we broke up and you saw I got married to Carol and you wanted...
You knew that. We need more of that. When you in the Black Panther Party, did you break up after she came out of jail? Like, you're not on trial, brother, but since you over here giving interviews, in the 18 months, when was the breakup? Because when did she marry the Matulu Shakur? The breakup, this is getting, you know what I mean? Hold on. Hold on. Let me just get a date here. It's 1975. They say 1975. And he says 18 months. No, we don't know if it's 18 consecutive months or 18 pieced together months, right? We don't know, because half of that time she went bye-bye and then she came back out. Now, when did you have time to go married? When did you have time to get married, broski? That when you guys broke up and then when she came back, listen to what he said. Because the way he tells his story, he pieces it and then he stops. Listen to what he says.
You knew that in the Black Panther Party when you brought him, when we broke up and you saw I got married to Carol.
Okay, he says when you brought him, that means he would have had to have been born. That means that this is the latter part of 1971. So could you have been together for 18 months when the latter part of 1971 he's born? And you break up and then you get married to a whole nother woman? You know what? I don't want to do it. They're going to make me have to do one more thing to confirm this thing. Maybe that'll be for another day, because now my research hat is on. Just to know, when did he get married to Carol? Because if you got married to Carol, in your words, on the books, that will tell us exactly when this whole thing goes down and whether or not you were actually together for 18 months. Because you said when she came back with him, that means he's born. This is after June. And then you broke up, and then you were married to Carol. With that said, let me just let him talk for a few.
And you wanted maybe a little more time, a little more from me, and I didn't have it.
maybe a little more time. I want you. I got one more mannerism to show you that tells us a little bit more than he's saying, and then I'm a dip. Gotta go do some errands. Okay, so he's talking with his whole chest when it's time to say I'm 99%. This guy's father, right? But now let's look at his mannerisms when he's revealing that Afeni did want something else from him.
Married to Carol, and you wanted that for years. You knew that from inception. You knew that in the Black Panther Party when we broke up and you saw I got married to Carol.
We broke up and you saw I got married to Carol. The way he merged that whole when you brought him and we broke up makes me believe that this is within the same time frame. I could be wrong.
And you wanted maybe a little more time, a little more from me, and I didn't have it.
I think when this woman went to jail, just by the way he dropped her ASS off at the courthouse, when this woman went to jail, he moved on. This is what is given. I could be wrong, but this is what is given.
And maybe that's what changed.
Maybe no, that is what changed. This is I'm a front, like I don't know what changed. You know what changed.
Why people do what they do. I just know in all my years, it still hurts. You know what I'm saying?
I bet it hurt other people too. I'm going to just go ahead and leave. And you ain't the only one it hurt. Clearly, you got the whole world investing in the hurt of your son. And I think, your son was there hurting, and then he shared his hurt with the whole world. And then the whole world's hurt is connected with his hurt. And you over here hurt. So everybody hurt. KJ said, I think Tupac was split between being sexually active in the industry and sexually abstinent when it came down to the movement. Yeah, there was a lot of dichotomy in it. And I think it's coming from a lot of places. There's a lot of, we were reading one time. Did I read? Or we read some excerpts from Eldridge Cleaver's Soul on Ice. Absolutely wild. Yo, the Black Panther Party, interesting. You feel me? What in the world? But I'll come back again. Maybe I'll just get a little bit of clarity. Maybe he drops another video and it gives us some more clarification. But that's my thoughts. Let me know yours in the description below or the comment box below, and we'll talk again. All right, everybody have a blessed day.